I wanted to give back to the community I came from and not just do individual impact, but do systemic impact. The differentiator for us as well is we study everything we do. We have a saying that says, if we value it, we measure it.
Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Scott Wood, and I'm here with Dr. Jessica Gomez, the Executive Director of the Momentous Institute here in Dallas.
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
Welcome, Jessica. So glad you're here. I told our production team over the last 2 days, I said I'm most looking forward to Jessica, and part of that's just because we've known each other for a while now, and I know the story that we're going to tell today, and I'm super excited to talk about it. So welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
So Jessica, tell me what is the connection between the Salesmanship Club, Youth and Family Center, and Momentous Institute?
It is the same organization. It got rebranded and renamed.
Okay.
Because as you can see, it's a long name.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to be more accessible. And if our children couldn't pronounce it, that was a little bit of the essence.
There you go.
Momentous Institute is a 100-year nonprofit, over 100 years old. We offer direct services, mental health services to families who would otherwise not have access. We have a laboratory school based in Oak Cliff that demonstrates what happens when you invest in children's mental health and long-term outcomes. Mm-hmm. And then we share everything that happens in those laboratories to the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're going to talk more about Momentous here in a few minutes. So before we do that, give us a little background on you. Where are you from?
Absolutely. Well, Scott, I have to say I'm from the south side of Chicago.
And why is that significant?
Oh, because you're either a Cubs fan or a Sox fan.
Okay.
Baseball is something, that's part of the culture and part of my family.
I should know this, but South Side, are you a Cubs fan or are you a Sox fan?
Well, so that's where the story really deepens.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be a Sox fan as a South Sider.
Okay.
But I grew up.
But you're not.
I'm not. I'm a Cubs fan.
All right. That's what I thought.
But I have a justification for it. I was a Batgirl during the Sammy Sosa, Harry Carey days. So I was out there on the field and, but that's why I'm a huge fan.
So was that for a whole season? Was that just for a couple of games or what was?
It was a couple of games during one of the seasons when I was growing up and could fit it into my schedule. And then my brother took on the baton.
I see. How did that come about?
My mom worked in communications and marketing.
Mm-hmm. For the Cubs?
No, for all types of organizations.
Yeah.
And she knew I loved baseball. I played softball growing up. And she said, I need to get you into the dugout so you can see what
I love that.
She didn't know if I was going to be a baseball player, a doctor, or whatever.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Well,
close-knit family, detached family, brothers and sisters. What's it look like?
So very close-knit family.
Okay.
I am one of three. I have two younger brothers. One younger brother and one elder brother that is no longer with us.
Okay.
So we are two. But we grew up in a really tight-knit family. My grandparents, once my brother came into the picture, knew my parents had their hands full. So they said, we're going to move in from Mexico to help your parents. So awesome. I grew up with this extended, loving family and the strong matriarchal kind of presence in my home, a strong woman that I grew up with. So really close family, really tight-knit. Every Sunday was family day, no matter what, in my household. So we'd start out by going to services, and then we were going to do something together.
Yeah.
And what's funny, I bring that up because I thought everyone did that. But then as I got out into the world, I realized not everyone had that.
It's pretty unique, actually. Yeah. And unusual in a lot of as you've seen with your work.
Yeah.
So talk to us about like an early sort of early impression from early childhood or middle school or high school where you just sort of a significant experience that kind of left an impression or maybe a decision point for you.
Well, that's a really good question, Scott. The one that has become my life's, the one that comes to mind is the one that really determined what I was going to do with my time on this earth. My dad and I on those Sundays would often walk to the park or take the bus to the park, and we'd sit on a bench and he'd be like, go play. And then I'd go sit with him because I was so curious about what he was doing. Like he'd just sit there. And I remember him telling me, you're going to learn a lot about the world, Jessica, if you just watch and you listen. He's like, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I always tell my dad that he was my first lesson in becoming a psychologist. But I started becoming curious about the world I lived in. I said I grew up in the south side of Chicago, rich in culture and in heritage, but it also didn't have a lot of opportunities for me growing up.
Right.
I started to wonder, why did I have to go to school across town? Why did I have to go to private schools? Why couldn't I play in my neighborhood? So I think that's the one thing that curiosity my dad sparked in me. Since I was probably 5 years old, changed the rest of my life in ways that I wouldn't think.
And so at what point, like in high school, did you know you wanted to go down this path as a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist or?
So I knew, let me start with, my mother used to whisper into my ear, reach for the stars, baby, since I was a little girl. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I wanted to help children. There was something, I was drawn to children and families, I think, having grown up the way I did, and then looking around to notice that not everyone had that. So I thought I was going to be an obstetrician. I wanted to deliver babies. So I knew I was going to be a doctor since I could walk, basically.
And was that not, this is the way I'll say it, it's probably not the way it happened, but put on you by your parents, or is that something that you came to on your own, or was it an expectation set by them? That's a better way to say it.
The only expectation they had is that I would reach for the stars.
Yeah.
My mom would whisper. Education was significant. Family education and working really hard towards something that made the world better was what was expected out of us, no matter what. But they never said be a doctor. I think I looked at kind of the professions. I was always curious. And I wanted to bring children into the world. Yeah. But then as I started to get ready for med school, I realized you're actually not really helping families in the way that I wanted to be proximal. So that was a pathway.
So your mom was in sales and marketing. I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm building context. So your mom was in sales and marketing. What was your dad's business?
He was a chef.
Okay.
So it starts to paint a picture of like Sunday dinners.
Right.
So my dad and food, I mean, I think everything, as I look back at my memories, it's always in the kitchen, always around these family gatherings and barbecues together. Yeah. But we were very tightly knit.
So you mentioned you went to private school for high school or for your education?
For elementary.
For elementary. Yeah. Okay. And then you were in public school for high school?
Yes.
Okay. And then graduated south side of Chicago. And then what? Where'd you go?
Well, actually, I was in private school. And then my parents started to realize, oh, this is getting really expensive. And then they moved us from the south side and moved us all the way to the southwest suburbs. And talk about culture shock.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that was middle school. They switched us over, and then high school, and then I went to college.
Okay. So what was the shock, like culturally or otherwise? Like, why was that such a big change for you guys?
Think of New York City, being in the bustle of that, and having to move into a typical suburban town.
Quiet, slower paced. My parents had also done pretty well to be able to move us into a community that was very different from the one I had grown up in elementary school. So my neighbors were very different from what I was used to. The tight-knit community, neighbors looking out for each other, was different because the houses are more spread out. Right. I was also one of the only Hispanic families in my neighborhood. So that automatically started to make me look, oh, okay. So talk about not everyone has Sunday dinners, or some people do this, others do that. Yeah. So it's a little bit of the culture. Positive experience overall, that move, or difficult, or?
A little bit of all. Yeah. I think it was a culture shock, but it's also what led me to understand diversity much better. Right. And what I mean by that is people from different perspectives. Yeah.
So you graduate from high school there. Yeah. And then what's next?
This is the funny part. So I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I got into almost most of the schools I wanted to get into. So I get into the Art Institute of Chicago. Okay. I get into Columbia. I get into UIC's teaching program. Then I get into, a pre-med program. And I'm like, well, which
And you're still thinking...
I still want to do that, but I want to do a lot of things all at once. Yeah. So that's where I had the conversation with my mentor at the time of, Jess, what's the one thing you want to do as a career? And you can be a photographer. You can be a chef as a hobby. So then I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, which was, my parents said, you can go anywhere for college as long as it's in the state. So what do? I go all the way to the edge of the state.
As far away as you could.
Next to Kentucky.
Still in the state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which again, culture shock again. Right? But they were top 10 in psychology at the time. Okay. And that's what drew me there.
Okay. So you'd already made the decision when you went to college as a freshman that psychology was going to be the path.
I was actually pre-medicine, but they were pretty I was exploring the different routes.
Okay, good. All right. And then, so talk to us a little bit about undergrad and then grad school and kind of the progression of that with your career aspirations.
Gosh, undergrad. Well, we won't talk about the first couple of years that we all have, right? In undergrad.
Yeah.
The freedom, the liberty, all that. That was great.
I have to think that probably went okay.
It went okay.
I don't see you as the rebellious type.
I would say it went okay, but I was so homesick as well.
Yeah.
I remember missing the foods from my home.
Sunday dinners.
Yes, absolutely. So trying to find my way through that, and then starting to connect with different professional groups, and then starting to work in the medical school. Mm-hmm. So working in the laboratories, and I'm working with cadavers and all that, and trying to figure out, is this what I want to do? Mm-hmm. And then working in the psychology labs, trying to figure it out. But I think that's where my passion for community really came in. Mm-hmm. Where I was at was really rural. And so working with the different communities that didn't have access to mental health care, to medical care, I think being a part of groups that was doing that work really inspired me.
Was there a moment during school when you made the switch from, being a doctor and obstetrician versus psychologist? Like, was there sort of a pivotal moment or a decision point? Talk to us about that.
There was. My mom still remembers it too. I think she's finally forgiven me for not going that route.
Yeah.
But I remember I want to say it was my last year, probably last semester. And I'm getting ready, like we've got to go to med school. We've got to get everything kind of sorted. And I go down to the registrar and they're like, Jess, you can't graduate. You're missing one elective. Well, all the electives were filled by this time, the easy ones at least. So they said, but you can audit this graduate course in advanced psychology of personality. And it was a graduate course. The rest is history after that course.
Really?
Learning about myself, learning how people kind of tick. It was just fascinating to me. And I said, that's the career that's going to get me really close to changing people's lives. And then I called my mom and said, hey, guess what? I'm actually not going to apply for med school. I'm going to apply for grad school. And she said, what does that mean? And that's where the conversation, what's interesting is she's like, well, what does a psychologist do, Jessica? What's mental health? Yeah. Because the conversation didn't exist in my home.
Right.
Like many of us, right?
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about it back then.
No. And in Latino culture, I will say, it's also, like in many other cultures, it's not something you talk about. And when I was like, well, that's for people that have problems, right? So I'm afraid for your safety. So it was a whole journey for us.
So now there's no MCAT, right? Because so no MCAT, no med school. It's completely
GRE.
different. Yeah, it's a
so
completely
everything
different
you've
path.
studied for, pivot.
Yeah, and so then where'd you end up going to grad school? And did you have a break in between?
So I did not have a break in between. Okay. I quickly pivoted. So all the studying I had been doing, and I mean, to pivot from MCAT to GRE, it was like, sweet, you got this. But I applied to a bunch of schools, got into a couple of them. But the one that stood out to me was Adler University. And it was a psychodynamics school. Now, what that means is that you're not looking for quick solutions, but you're really trying to dig at the root cause of issues. And it was
Thank you for defining that for me, by the way.
I knew it was coming. But also, it was a training specifically to be a community psychologist. Okay. And that really stood out to me. Yeah. I wanted to give back to the community I came from, and not just do individual impact, but do systemic impact on a wider scale. Right.
Makes sense. So then that program was how long?
Oh, boy.
Long.
2 years for my master's, 5 to 7 for the doctorate.
And all at the same school?
All at the same school.
And where was it located?
Downtown Chicago.
Downtown. So you're back home, basically.
I'm back home, and boy, was I back home.
Yeah.
Because when I was looking at weighing out grad school and finances, it made sense to move in. So that meant moving into the rules as well. Yeah. So that was, again, another pivot. But my parents, I couldn't have done it without them, their support. So I was able to focus on graduate school, and I accelerated it. I think I finished it in 7 years versus the 10.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a small program, probably 10 or 12 of us going through that program. It was a small, intense institute that was established by like the second descendant from Sigmund Freud. So for your audience, that's the father of psychology.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Okay, so then at some point you get to Dallas, right? So tell us about that journey.
So the last year for any doctor is you have to do an intensive full-time residency.
Right.
And the only choice you get is to select the places you would like to apply to, and then there's a match, like the medical match.
Yeah.
And so I'm at that journey. In my mind, I'm like, I'm coming back home no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look on the West Coast and the East Coast, but I want an experience that will further train me to be a community psychologist.
Right, because it's only 1 year.
It's only 1 year, but it is
And then you're
such
back
a
to
critical
Chicago.
year. Yeah, that was the plan. My whole life. I had a whole plan for my life in Chicago, like apartment right off of the Gold Coast, where I could be by the lake, all of that. And my parents had a plan, too, for that. We'll support you to get that.
Yes.
So I hear about this organization called Salesmanship Club, Youth and Family Centers. And I read the brochure about what they're doing, and I'm like, they're not doing this. There's no way this exists. So I was lucky enough to get an interview.
And what was the thing that they were doing at that time that piqued your interest?
The thing that they were doing is they were treating children from a family perspective. They were pushing the edge, inviting innovation in their programs, which I was like, wait, you're asking clinicians and trainees to innovate, and you want them to take risks that help the betterment of people? Sign me up. So I read that on paper, and that they had been around for 100 years doing this work. I'm like, well, the field's only been around about 100 years.
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
I'm like, Dallas. I'm like, okay. So I came down here, and what I saw, the people I met, left me floored that I have to get this spot.
Yeah. So there was an interview process.
It's a full day, 8-hour interview to get these. So by a whole committee of psychologists. So talk about them studying you, right? That was intense. I think one of the interviews, you just walk into a room and it's just quiet to see what comes up. I think I passed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Obviously you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I matched. And when I tell you I levitated off the ground when I got the news, and I told my mom, I'm going to Dallas. She's like, Dallas? What are you going to do in Dallas?
So these other places that you applied around the country, did you have to go interview there as well?
I interviewed at 17 spots.
Oh, my word. Okay.
So I was, like I said, I wanted to stay in the Midwest, but I did some East Coast and West Coast.
Okay.
And then Dallas.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I applied to 21, got 17, and then got my top spot, because then you rank them.
So then of the 17, it's a matching process, so you really don't have a lot of say where you go? Or
So what you do is you rank your top sites you want. And I had placed Salesmanship Club as the first one.
As number one.
And then the organization does their own ranking.
Gotcha.
And then it matches based upon. So I'd like to believe that we were just mutually choosing each other.
Yes, that sounds like it. Yeah.
So
Okay. So then you're a year in Dallas. You're coming to Dallas.
yeah.
Mom and Dad were probably not thrilled.
Not thrilled. I was going back and forth about every
But it was only
month.
going to be a year, so it was okay.
Only a year, but, I was the only one down here. 6 months in, my now husband, I'll never forget the phone call. He said, you're not coming back home. And I said, what? He's like, I got to find a way to move down there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, I hear it in your voice. You're in love with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rest is history.
Interesting that he picked up on it just in talking to you. Like,
I remember that conversation.
and when he said that to you, had you already sort of internalized the fact that, okay, yeah, I'm probably not leaving, or was it still, you weren't even thinking about that? You're just in the program kind of doing it.
No, you're thinking about it because you have to figure out then your postdoc to get your license.
Right.
And then you've got to figure out. So I'm interviewing at all these places. I'm interviewing there, but I'm also interviewing all over Chicago.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the odds are.
And then it is your hope that you get to stay, or you're just going to kind of wait and see.
It was my hope that I got to stay, but there's one spot.
Yeah.
And, for instance, for the internship spots, I think 130 people interviewed, and there's 3 spots.
Wow.
So it's highly competitive.
Yeah. So what year is this? Just like to give us a
2011.
2011. Okay.
2011.
All right.
So my husband hears it in my voice, my now husband.
Yes.
And he's like, I hear it. He's like, that's absolute joy I hear in your voice. And he said that. And like I said, I started thinking about it differently, but I had imagined this entire life, in Chicago. I had the whole thing mapped out. So to hear that feedback from someone that knows me deeply, it was like, how do I start to imagine this is home? How do I plant down roots? And it's been a process.
So was the plan at that point, all right, stay there until we get, I get confirmed, but if I get confirmed and I get this job, then you can move and we can start a life? Or what was the sequencing of all that?
You're going to laugh at this one. He was so certain I was never leaving Dallas.
Yeah, so he was ready to come.
He came February.
Yeah.
Now, I started July. So we're having this convo around Christmas, and he's like, no, we're going to start our life down there. But he wanted to get a sense of it too.
Yeah.
So February, he's here. And then by March, my parents are going, what's happening?
This was not the plan.
Yeah. So for the past 14 years, I would say for the past 10 years, and we'll get into that because I've transitioned. But
yeah. So you get the offer. You start, and I guess at that point it's full-time employment, right?
Well, I got an offer somewhere else.
Okay.
Right after I finished my internship. So the offer was, imagine this, I'm not even licensed. This is my first time on my own.
And who's the director at this point?
The executive director.
Is this Delane or is this?
This is still Kent Skipper.
Kent Skipper. Okay.
Yes, Kent Skipper. When I came back, it was Michelle.
Okay.
Kinder. So I get another job offer, and it's a full-time employment. It's not a training offer, and it's actually to help launch an entire mental health program in this very well-established community clinic in West Dallas. We're talking about a pediatric and OB clinic and a family clinic, and I'm like, that is an amazing opportunity. Let me try it. And what I worked out is that I would get the support from the training psychologist at Salesmanship Club while I did that program, because what an amazing opportunity for someone who's just coming out of their career.
Yeah.
And so I spent a year doing that before the next executive director called me and said, hey, I have a job opening and I didn't see your name in the list. It's time for you to come back. And then I came back.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And then the rest is history, which we'll continue to talk about. But
absolutely.
All right. So you come back and you join full time, and now
I've got a whole world of experience because I got launched into this huge leadership role as a trainee, a year of tremendous growth. And then talk about systemic impact. So, and was able to launch a lot of their development funding initiatives to get those, hire the people, and start all their research projects in a year. So it was good work and experience.
Amazing. And so you come back, are you now a psychologist on staff at Momentous Institute, and you're seeing clients, and you kind of just into that world, right?
I'm a full-time now staff psychologist, seeing clients all day long. So about 25 to 30 clients a week.
And so this is like 2013-ish?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay. So. And then now you're in it, right?
Now I'm in it, and then, wow, now I'm realizing what it's like to sit with 25 to 30 clients who are coming with some of the most challenging situations. And I learned something about myself. I learned that as much as I love helping people, that I also needed a little bit of change in what I was doing. So then about 2 to 3 years after that, I start becoming a training psychologist, which means I'm helping students, just like I was, learn how to be a psychologist. So I had a little bit of that balancing act.
And that was inside of Momentous?
That was inside of Momentous. And then 2 years after that, 2017, I become a director of innovation, clinical innovation and impact, which is how do we continue to push the needle in our clinical interventions with the families who are working in, and that's what I was charged with. So spent a little bit of time there. So
at one point, you had your full client load at Momentous, and then you also had a private practice.
I did.
Is that right? Yeah.
I did. I have. So have. There's some clients that, they're just thriving, and they're a joy to work with. So I don't know how long. I probably had that, about 12 years. I wanted to see, we're working with the community predominantly at Momentous Institute, but I wanted to know what it was like to work with a different sector, right? So I started a private practice in Frisco, Texas, alongside, I want to say 4 to 5 other psychologists. And then within a month, we had lifted the business off the ground. And then it took off. But I was there a day and a half. Like, my commitment was fully to the community work. And then this became just a great business lesson and just entrepreneur.
So that's great. All right. And so today, you're the executive director of Momentous Institute, and you have been for now
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so what happened between 2013, 14 to today? Like, how did you end up in the seat that you're in?
So, what was it? It was 2021 that I stepped into this role.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, so I signed on June, but the October before that, I sat down with my supervisor. We all have to do yearly reviews, right?
Of course.
And I said, I love this organization, and in 3 years, I want to see myself leading an organization.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and it seems like you're not going to retire anytime soon because you're pretty happy. I'd love to do it here, but it doesn't look like there's opportunities.
Yeah.
Well, that was October. And then come March, April, I'm interviewing for the executive director role.
Mm-hmm.
I had thought about it a couple of times, but I was like, it's too soon.
Yeah.
This is a big organization. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But then staff start coming to me and saying, you need to apply for this role.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed the first 2 times. For the third time, I'm like, I need to pray on this. I need to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took the leap.
Yeah.
And then that's where you come in.
That's where we met, right?
Yeah, that's where you come into the story.
So for those who don't know, I was part of the interview team, I guess that's what we call it.
We're the first interview.
Yes, in this building, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 4 years ago. So now you're now running Momentous Institute. You're the executive director. All things sort of fall under your purview. What was the organization like when you took over 4 years ago, and then contrast that with where you are today? Just what are some of the changes and some of the evolution of because the organization's really evolved in a really positive way over the last few years, and what would you say some of those things are?
I'm going to paint a picture for you. Okay. Imagine 2021, and right before that, what happened? We all packed up our bags at the office and said, we're going to go home for 2 weeks and we'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
A global pandemic unfolds, right? And so people are working from home, and then we have some organizational changes. And so I think what was happening in the outside world with all the stress that came with COVID and a pandemic and what we thought would last a couple months extended to, that's what I stepped into. I called myself a COVID ED for a little bit, stepped into that. So I stepped into a culture trying to figure out how do we function after something so significant across the world.
Yeah.
And leadership changes. And then my team's looking at me like, well, we know her from the trenches, but what's she going to be like?
Mm-hmm. So they're evaluating you.
They're evaluating me in this position, but they're also telling me, but you're one of us. So that's good.
Right.
You know what it's like to sit in the therapy room or sit in a classroom to observe students.
Right.
So, and that buy-in, I think, and relationship building was critical, and I'll accelerate. So I think it was a lot of trust building as we had to make big decisions about, we got to come back into the office. I know that was fun for every executive across the globe, right? To bring their staff back in. But it was also figuring out the new kind of, how are we going to do this? How do we push into our mission when we're struggling with the same things that our families are struggling with?
Right.
So I would say, fast forward 4 years, it was a process of figuring out who was going to be part of the organization's leadership when any new leader comes in, right? With new ideas there were wonderful people that got us to a really great point, but they were people that were not going to get us to the now and what's next. And that can be really difficult and painful. Change isn't easy for humans, Scott.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
No, it is hard. It is. So one of the things you guys did, which I'm fully aware of, is you implemented EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And we talk a lot about EOS as a tool for businesses on the podcast. But talk a little bit about the exercise of implementing EOS, some of the learning, how it equipped you as a leader. And then even now today, I know you guys recently had your session, your quarterly session. How does it affect how you're thinking about the future?
It allows us to think about the future in a structured and strategic way. I will say anyone who doesn't have a structure, try it.
Yeah.
And be patient. You told us 2 to 3 years. I'm like, we've arrived. So we're probably about 3.5 years in. I will say it is the best communication tool that we have for our staff, but also our deeply kind of connected stakeholders, because there's so much going on. We just had ours yesterday for a full 8 hours. And imagine this. Usually, who loves an 8-hour meeting, right? Our team was like, I think we needed more time to discuss this. But it allows the team to stop and really pull up and think, where do we want to be? Who do we want to be when we grow up? And seeing that exercise and the energy come from the leaders across the org, I can't believe it still, given when I stepped in to where we're at, where we're dreaming about who do we want to be in 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah. Well, we talk about NEOS, right person, right seat. That's one of the conversations that we have often. And I know like you feel like you really have that right person, right seat thing figured out now.
You know, you used to tell me that you'll just know it. You'll just know it. And what starts to happen is all you have to do is bring in a really highly ambitious, energetic person and put them on a team, and it just works itself
Creates
out.
lift.
Yeah, and people will go, that's really exciting, but I don't think I have what it takes to help you advance it.
Yeah.
And it's led to some really authentic, open conversations. They're not easy, but to say, I totally see where you're going. I respect that, and I see that the org needs to go that way, but that's not really my passion point. And that's okay.
That's okay. So now that you've got the right people in the right seat and you've got the organization kind of the way you'd like it, people are energized, they're excited about the work. How would you say, where have you been from a mental health conversation, and, where are you going?
So for the past 100 years, this organization has been known as a trusted service provider, whether that's in providing mental health services to providing really high-quality education. We've been on this experiment for the last decade or so of how do we share that out with the world? Because if something works here, how do we share it? I think now there is incredible energy and buy-in across the organization of, no, we need to be the premier mental health organization that's helping to solve this mental health crisis.
So what's that look like?
Well, I think you all can see and probably hear the pause and the deep breath I took. It's a little scary and it's a lot exciting. But as I tell the team, if you're not a little bit scared, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
And
why do you think Momentous is uniquely positioned to take on that?
Our history, our stakeholders, the red pants I talked about, wildly committed, passionate, invested individuals that want to make a difference in the community and have proven that they can do it for 100 years. I think this is the group that can really make a dent in the mental health crisis because they have the heart, they have the platform, they have the connections, and they are boldly ambitious in their goals. Like our board will always tell us, we want you to take risks. And if you fail, that's okay, but you need to take a risk.
Right.
In 2021, we took a risk. We went from serving thousands to saying, in 10 years, we are going to reach 1 million lives. And I'm here to tell you, 2021, right? 2025, we're right under 700,000
That's amazing.
lives.
Yeah.
And that was just by casting a vision. But it started to stretch the team. That's what it does, right? To say, how do I have to shift what I'm doing day to day to have scalable impact? Which has been a game changer for us.
And not to pick on other agencies or other folks that are in the mental health space, but what do you feel like is limiting? And maybe I'll add a little context. So to me, it's sort of like the church, right? Like, you've got all these denominations, but if all the denominations could just get together and sort of agree on like one or two things, like they could really make a much larger impact. And so it feels like you've got a lot of different agencies around the country doing good work all over the place, but there's not this sort of leveraged view of how to go take on this problem.
There's not, and our work is rooted in addressing what's really driving the mental health issues, right? We don't want to put Band-Aids.
The systemic component of it, yeah.
And whether it's working with an entire family system or working with an entire school system or entire community to address those issues, that's what leads to long-standing change. The differentiator for us as well is we study everything we do. We have a saying that says, if we value it, we measure it. So we have a team of PhDs that measure everything that we do so that we can prove it. We have in-house laboratories, our school, our mental health services, and then we take that and we scale it to the world. Oftentimes organizations are doing one or the other,
right?
But we are putting actual interventions in communities that don't often get studied or get services, and then sharing with the world. How do you do that?
So talk a little bit about the school curriculum as an example, the Changemaker curriculum, because I think that's a really good example of how to scale this, and also how to start working on this problem at sort of root cause before it becomes a problem. Exactly. Talk about that for a minute and how you guys have focused on that.
So our laboratory school, which is Momentous School, started 30 years ago, and it's evolved a little bit. But the premise behind it is, what would happen if you teach children as young as 3 years old how their brain works and about just basic concepts around mental health? If you started at 3 years old all the way till they left us in 5th grade, if you poured that into them, could you change the trajectory for children, especially children who come from disadvantaged backgrounds? So 85% of our children upon admission qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's the national poverty line. Well, let me tell you that we've proven over the 3 decades that absolutely it makes a difference in their mental health and their well-being, in their academic well-being, but also in their financial well-being. We just finished this economic impact study in collaboration with the Center for Brain Health, where we studied cohorts of our alumni. And check this out. Our alumni, just by focusing on breathing skills, neuroscience, that is really simple, from 3 years old to 5th grade, they're 4 times more likely to graduate from college, and they earn 26% more than the average child, irrespective of economic background.
Amazing.
So the proof is in the pudding. If you learn how your brain works and your body works, you're going to be a healthier human.
Well, and it's a if you make that investment up front, like there's a huge return on it on the back end.
And it costs the same as public education. I should say that.
Right. So we focused, or the Salesmanship Club has focused on children and families all these years. And I think, with COVID, with mental health being more front and center, COVID certainly being highlighting the need for mental health and mental health services, and people being more willing to talk about their mental health. You're being drawn into other conversations. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, let me talk about how it started. Our curriculum of our school, we've captured it, right? And it's now this off-the-shelf thing that you can plug and play in any school. It's currently in 32 states across our country and in 7 countries across the globe. And that's just the past 3 years we've been pushing that. But some of the calls we're getting, let me share, and I've gotten permission to share this. State Fair Texas called us up and said, hey, the fair season's really stressful for us, and it would be great if all of our team could come in and just learn some basic tips around mental health and well-being. So we trained 600 of our team members.
Wow.
We started with their leadership, and then we scaled. And then they called us back and said, all of our community partners need this because we want this to be part of the culture. So we were happy to do that last year. We've gotten calls from prominent attorney groups that they're dealing with some pretty high stress. You think about
Stressful job.
So they said, we know that you've been doing mental health for 100 years and we want the real deal. So we've gone in and trained them as well. So those are just some of the examples. Of course, we work with schools, principals, but we're continuing to diversify who calls us. And it's been interesting post-COVID.
So how do you think about that, like with the history of children and families being the focus, and then now all of a sudden you start to get pulled into the corporate world a little bit? How do you reconcile, hey, but we're really about children and families, but yet we have these opportunities to spread this message much broader?
I reconcile that pretty easily. If you really want to change the world for children, pay attention to the adults in their lives, and pay attention to the adults making decisions about children. If they don't understand this, children are never going to thrive.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, 1 million lives, and what's the year?
2031.
2031, but you're 700,000 in.
We want to hit it next year.
You're going to hit it next year.
We want to.
Okay, and so
I want that party.
So have you started to think about what's next?
We have. We've been having conversations with leadership. And our boards around what does it mean to be a premier mental health organization that will help solve this mental health crisis? What would that look like for us? And that means leveraging our research, being called to the table when decisions are being made about children's mental health and well-being. That would mean making sure that we're doing more rigorous research and testing out the latest interventions, and really not confining ourselves to the regional impact. It's already happening with our curriculum. You heard that.
Right.
But that we should be, when anyone thinks about children and families' mental health, that Momentous Institute can bring something to that table.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's incredible energy around, wait a minute, you're right. This doesn't just impact families in Dallas. It's all over the world.
Mm-hmm. So a large part of our audience is our business owners and entrepreneurs. So if we had a room full of business owners sitting here and we're doing our same little chat, what would be your message to them? Like, what would be a takeaway point that you would want them to understand about mental health, the mental health of their teams, and the employees that work for them?
God, there's so many points. Let me start with the bottom line is, if you want a healthy team and a healthy culture and high productivity, and your bottom line continues to go up, you have to invest in mental health and well-being. Mm-hmm. That's from your space, from your leadership especially, has to uphold this posture. Mm-hmm. And we can get into that a little bit. But at the end of the day, you heard some of the economic impact
for sure
that we're hearing when you invest in it in children. It's much easier to start earlier.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to lead to less burnout, less turnover in organizations, and just happier, more productive employees.
Mm-hmm. The way we think about it is, if our team is happy and fulfilled, then that's going to trickle down into the client relationships. They're going to feel it, and they're going to be the beneficiary. The clients ultimately get to be the beneficiaries of a healthy organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I would love for us, I think this is what we're committed to at Momentous. For so long, the conversation, as we talked about mental health, has been in the shadows. But the minute we recognize that it is part of the human condition, that you can't separate your physical from your mental, it's all intertwined, that all humans need this to thrive, I think that we are going to be a stronger society, stronger community.
And the reality is, we all deal with it.
If you've got a brain and you've got a body,
we all deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Jessica, thank you so much. It's great to be with you, and it's great to hear all the great things that are happening at Momentous.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for joining us on Decision Points.